Good morning and welcome back to Coffee Break. One of the things that I love about working at Erdmann's Books for Young Readers is that I encounter a lot of stories from around the world.
Yeah, we publish a lot of books in translation, and I don't know, it's really exciting to see what all of these other different countries and different cultures are publishing and what's important to them.
I think with translated stories, you can see the common human themes that are there throughout all cultures, but it's fun to get maybe a different perspective on them. So for instance, there's the classic story of a boy and his pet. That's a classic relationship story you can find all around the globe.
Old Yeller, Black Beauty. I'm picking the sad ones.
Right.
Sorry.
A version of A Boy and His Pet story is a book that we did that takes place in Greece. It's a boy and his pet, but he lives in Greece and his pet is a donkey. So there's that common thread and then a new angle on it.
Mm-hmm. And what's really cool is actually the author is Dutch, but she worked at this donkey sanctuary in Greece, and that's where she got the idea for the story. So it's really interesting to have someone else's perspective of this culture and portraying it. So there's all sorts of insights that you can take away from that.
So besides modern stories like Mikis and the Donkey, there's also legends and fables and myths from all around the world. So we're familiar with, the tortoise and the hare. We've all heard Aesop's fables, but are you familiar with the blue jackal, which is an Indian fable?
And it's sort of like the emperor's new clothes in a way. So it's just really interesting to see these ideas of identity and perception reflected in all of these other folk tales from different cultures.
Yeah, and kind of also seeing what do other cultures teach their societies? What are the myths that they want to keep learning from, and what can we learn from them?
Right, and what I really like about the Blue Jackal is that you've got this ancient warly artwork. So this has a very strong piece of their ancient culture.
Right, it's not an Americanized version of the story.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing when you're talking about translating books, because there are some things that are very culturally specific, and you have to decide if what to keep and what to change, because some things are going to be completely unrelatable to your market, and so you want the market to be able to relate to it. That's the whole point, is seeing these stories and saying, hey, this affects me, I relate to this too. But you also want to keep the essential flavor of the story alive and well. Yeah. So I think it's important to have as light of a touch as possible. This is a book of Norwegian poetry, and in it they reference, they have street names that are Henrik Ibsen and Roald Amundsen, something like that.
Which are very well-known names in Norway.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that I'm stumbling over these names shows that it's not very common here.
Right.
And yeah, we thought about changing these to something more recognizable, like Queen Elizabeth or George Washington or something. And we decided, no, this is a really important piece of the culture to this book, and we need to keep that intact. So, but another publisher might have decided to change it. So it varies. It's tough to find the line sometimes.
Right.
One of the things that I find really interesting about translated books is when you find a book on a topic that has affected all of these other cultures and countries, and seeing how they bring a different perspective to it. So The War Within These Walls. So this is a World War II book about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And that was something that was only briefly mentioned in my history classes in high school and everything. For us, the war starts in 1941.
Yeah, and then the Americans came in and saved the world.
You're welcome. But yeah, and it's really interesting to see this is the kind of thing that our own history classes don't really talk about in World War II.
Right.
And it affected, tens of thousands of people. And
right. I think we too often forget that there's a lot we can learn from others around the globe. I think cultural differences and language barriers just make it really easy for us to think that people from other cultures are not as intelligent as us, because we don't know what they're saying. And they do things differently, and so we think, that's stupid. But I think books, especially translated books, help to bridge that gap. We can see things from someone else's eyes, and we can understand their culture in our words and just better understand the wisdom that's coming from around the world.
Yeah, I think literature provides one of the best insights into another culture, and especially picture books, something with words and images, so even if you're not grasping everything, you can get the gist of it and you can start to make bridges and learn about other cultures.
I think books from other cultures can just widen our appreciation for humanity all across the globe. Erdmann's books from and about Norway, Chile, India, Belgium, Israel, Greece, Tanzania, Liberia, all over the world are helping open my mind. What books do that for you?
Let us know in the comments or on Twitter. We would love to hear what books inspire you to learn about other cultures.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Ready?
No, but we'll figure it out. I mean, that's the honest truth.
True.